Hello and welcome to episode 272 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is April 28th, 2025. Today I'm wearing two older pieces. The stole I crocheted in 2017 and the cardigan I knit in 2013. So that's fairly old. But to start with the shawl I'm wearing, this is a crochet shawl that I think it was a kind of crochet along, but it wasn't a mystery. So I could already see what the stole was going to look like before I started. And the yarn is 6-ply sock yarn, but not by Opal. I think it was Lana Grossa. I think it's a yarn that I picked up when I was on holiday or traveling for some reason. So I didn't buy it at home. But I really like those more pastel-like colors. And I like the mix of having smaller motifs and then to have the whole shawl crochet lengthwise. So I knew that the yarn, the colors would come out differently, and I really liked that idea. And I don't quite remember in which order things were done, but I think that the motifs down here were already crocheted onto each other during the last round. So that's these connections in between the motifs. And then I thought that the rest of the stole would be then crocheted on top of the motifs, but I think it was the other way around. I think you had to start again with the whole shawl, and then in the last round, you were attaching the stole to these motifs. So it's quite an interesting construction, but I really like the result. I like this wavy pattern, and I like those round motifs that were crocheted in two different sizes. So that's a really interesting project. And the cardigan I'm wearing is knit out of a pure cotton. It was the Millefilly by Wolle Rödel. It was when I was still working for that yarn company, and they had a brochure every year, every half year, every 6 months, with projects in them. And for a certain time, I was able to design some of the projects. So I was told which yarn to use, which color to use, and I was told it had to be a cardigan. It was supposed to have lots of cables, but I could decide which cable, and I could decide how to arrange things. And so I designed this cardigan, I knit it up, and then the company had the pattern written up in the brochure. And I was a bit disappointed that the picture with this cardigan was tiny in the brochure. So most people didn't notice it. I think the only people who noticed the cardigan were the people in my shop where this cardigan was displayed. So they were like, oh, that's nice. Where can I get the pattern? And I would say, it's in the brochure. And they would say, no, I have the brochure. I didn't see it. And I said, it's that tiny picture up there. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But anyway, I still like the cardigan a lot. I like to have something white for the summer. And the only thing that I originally didn't like about this cardigan is that I had to knit the cardigan in white, and then the edges on the sleeves and in the neckline, they were beige. So I knit it up with beige, and for the neckline, it was no problem. That's added at the end, so it's really easy to undo. And but for the sleeves, you were supposed to start with that. But because it was my pattern, I knew what I was doing. I started with a provisional cast on for the sleeves, knit the sleeves, then I picked up the stitches and I added the edge later on. So that meant that once the cardigan came back to me, I didn't have to display it in the shop anymore. I undid the edges on both the sleeves and the neckline, and then I crocheted this turquoise color that I like so much. And I kept saying, should they get dirty or something, that I could undo them again and add a new color. And my sister keeps telling me if I undid them and knit them again in light gray, she would love to have the cardigan. But I really like it too much myself to do that. So maybe I'll make one in white and gray for her, but I'm not promising anything yet. Yeah, so two older pieces, but still in very much in working order, and I still like them a lot. And I keep wearing this the wrong way around. With crochet, it doesn't really show as much as with knitting, and the main body of the shawl I was crocheting to and fro, so it doesn't really show at all. But because the motifs are crocheted in the round, you always look on one side, and then you always have the wrong side on the other side. But the wrong and right side are really similar. So I think you can only tell the difference if you're a bit experienced or if you made it yourself. But even people who crochet sometimes can't tell the front and back apart. And it's just that I like this side more, that I pay attention to wearing the shawl the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, so much to what I'm wearing. Let me just quickly check something here. Can I? Oh no, it doesn't work. Anyway, yeah, so much for that. Then on to finished objects. I have two finished objects. One is a finished project, and it's also the only new project for this week. But I will start with the older project, and that's the tiny baby socks for my May knit along. And I think you already know this sock. I finished that, I think 2 weeks ago in preparation for the tutorial video I was going to film, and I filmed that last week. And in filming that, I finished those 3 granny squares that I had partially already started off camera. And then I picked up the stitches for the sock in front of the camera, and then I just tell you to finish the sock. I have several videos, or I have one tutorial video that shows a plain vanilla sock, so you can use that. I didn't want to do the whole thing again on camera. And then I just finished knitting the sock, I think last night. And I'm not quite sure why, but the second sock turned out to be bigger than the first. I think I used the same number of stitches and the same number of rows. And I do think I used the same needles, but so I'm not quite sure what happened there. If these were going to be socks for a baby to wear, I would probably knit 2 more to make sure I have 2 that have the same size. But right now my plan is to make all those baby socks into an advent calendar, and there it doesn't matter that one is bigger than the other. So I will just leave them the way they are. You can see that I changed the order of the colors in the granny squares from one sock to the other. So with the first sock, I all started them with white. With the second, I all started them in yellow. And also because the 100 Wasser yarn has a very long color repeat, the 2 socks are, I think, completely different. But these are the same colors. The colors themselves are repeating, so I think it's quite clear that they go together. And as I said, in the advent calendar, it doesn't matter. And the granny squares will be enough to show that these go together. So yeah, this tiny pair is finished. I will start a grown-up size pair in May. And I'm already looking forward to that. And maybe some of you want to join me. Then you can show your socks in the Ravelry group for Kikos Strickschule. So that was a smaller finished project. And the bigger finished project, which is also the new cast on, are of course the Sock Madness sock for round 4. And last week when I was recording, I think I already had the specs for the next round, but not yet the pattern. And the pattern dropped last Monday. When I was just about to go to bed, I noticed there was a new email, and I realized the pattern had dropped, and I had a quick look at the pattern and then went to bed because I was tired. And then Tuesday morning, I picked out yarn and I started knitting, and I finished the socks on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. On Saturday, it usually always takes me 5 days to knit Sock Madness socks. And I finished them, and I got a spot in my team for the 5th round. And these are the socks. The pattern is called Brintarsia by Rini Strauss. And it's called Brintarsia because it has brioche and intarsia. So I'm a big fan of brioche knitting. And the last time we had brioche in socks was when the Nerd Knits designed the, I don't remember what they were called, but I really enjoyed knitting them. But I know that a lot of people took a long time knitting them. And yeah, so I wasn't too shocked about the brioche. Intarsia is something that I don't really fancy in socks because I don't like having to purl every other round. But with these socks, that wasn't necessary. So intarsia means that those bits are sort of, the white yarn stays here. You don't carry it round the sock. So we had to have 2 different balls of yarn for the 2 bits of the brioche bit. But because you knit every brioche row twice, we knit it once in the contrast color and then in the main color, and then went on knitting in the round. And then the next time we got here, we turned the work only to knit those brioche stitches. So we had to slip them onto the right hand needle, turn round, go back, and then turn round again, and then knit with the main color. It's a bit difficult to describe, but it means we didn't have to purl the whole sock every other time, but the main sock was just knit in the round, and only those brioche stitches got knit to and fro. And after I sort of understood the pattern, I started knitting those stitches backwards. So instead of turning the work, I would just slip the stitches and then knit from left to right, and then pick up the other yarn and knit the other way again. So that worked out really nicely. I made a big mistake in the pattern at some point in the first sock. So instead of those lines always staying on this side or that side, I had one line here going over there. And I only noticed after I had knit several rounds on top of it. So I dropped those stitches. There are pictures on my Ravelry page showing that if you want to see how I did the sock surgery. But it worked out really well. With the second sock, there were only minor mistakes. And finally, the socks were approved. And I have a spot in round 5, which shouldn't start before next week, because unless people finish their socks really quickly, the round will go till next week, Monday. So the next round shouldn't start before Tuesday, I think, or maybe Monday night, something like that. Yeah, so what else can I say about these socks? They are knit toe up. I used a colorful opal yarn for the main part. This is one of those socks with vitamin E. It's out of their beauty series. So the yarn is a bit softer than the normal yarn, and it's supposed to be good for your skin when you knit them and wear them. I used off-white solid color by Opal as the contrast color. Did I say the socks are knit toe up? And then it's a short row heel, but it has this mini gusset increases and decreases. So I think that's quite interesting. I think it's the first time I did that. Maybe the second time, I don't remember. So that was quite interesting. And then I like the way the ribbing starts in the back and then goes up on both sides like a triangle. And then we knitted a specific amount of rows, and then we did the same in the front. So with the size I knit, it's only a very tiny bit, this tiny little triangle, but the number of rows is made in such a way that this seems to be a straight line going up. So that was one of the many details that make this pattern really interesting. And yeah, so really happy I finished them. They are for a friend. She doesn't know it yet, but I picked the color specifically for her and I knit it to her size. That was one interesting thing about this pair, that usually we are told how many pattern repeats to do in the foot and to do in the leg, but this time we were told to do so many pattern repeats on the whole, and it was our decision how many to do in the foot and how many to do in the leg. So I really like that. So we could knit to a specific size. That was really nice. Yeah, so that was my new project, my finished object, and the next Sock Madness round. Now I can wait, but because I spent so much time knitting these socks, I actually have not quite as many projects as usual, but I think that's okay, and we'll see how short this video is going to be. So there are no socks at the beginning of my works in progress section, and I only knit very little on my wrist warmers with this beautiful lace pattern. I had wanted to knit one chart repeat every day I'm in the shop, but that didn't work. I knit half a repeat one day and then a little more the other day when I showed somebody how to do the pattern, and then I did a few more rounds this morning. So now I'm 2 rounds away of having one chart repeat done. So it's almost one whole pattern. So one whole wave is 2 chart repeats. And yeah, not a lot, but I'm still happy that I did work on it, and I will try to do a lot better this week. Then I wanted to tell you about a project that I am planning to cast on. So, and by showing it to you today, I'm promising myself to cast it on this week. And this is a project that I'm going as part of the current pattern battle, which always takes place with every Opal subscription parcel that we get. And usually on the German channel, I do an unboxing video to show the colors. And I always do it so that I haven't seen the colors beforehand. I open the parcel and it's the first time I look at the colors. And with the last parcel, I couldn't do that because when it arrived, I was on holiday. And by the time I got back, I had already seen colors on Ravelry, on Instagram, and even in my WhatsApp feed, WhatsApp conversations, I already saw some of the colors. And then I don't enjoy doing an unboxing video, but people were asking me to show the colors anyway. So I promised once I start a project from these 6 colors, I will show you the colors that were in the last Opal Abo parcel, in the subscription parcel. So this time I'll just start. Very often there's a blue color with Opal series, and this was the one that was in this subscription parcel. There was also a gray one, but I think it's a bit different than their usual grays because it has a very nice, almost like a gradient from light to a bit darker, and then just a bit of the dark gray. And this is my sister's favorite color in this parcel, so I'm going to knit something for her. Unless she wants to knit something with it, we don't know yet, but this is the gray that was in there. Then the most unusual color, I think, is this one, because it's very light. And I know with the Aquarell series, that was a fairly light color series, but to have that much white in a colorway is, I think, rather unusual. So that's a very interesting colorway. Then with the dark red and just a few blue and orange speckles. And then there are 2 quite colorful ones. One is this with green, red, and blue. So the sort of basic colors, but I think these are going to give you nice stripes if you knit socks. And then I think this is my favorite color in this box, and it has a lot of pink and a bit of green and yellow and also blue. So this is a very bright and nice color, I think. And then the last color is, again, rather unusual because it's fairly light and it has more the pastel color. So it's a bit, it's not like my style, but it's sort of related to these colors, I think. And this is the colorway that was chosen for this time's pattern battle. And with the pattern battle, everybody who takes part has to knit with this color. So all the projects are knit out of this color, but everybody has to knit a different pattern than everybody else. So most people knit socks, but they use a different pattern for their socks. And as usual, and especially with being on holiday, I was fairly late in picking my project. So I decided not to knit socks. I usually try not to knit socks for the pattern battle, but I decided to knit a pair of mittens. And this is Bernd Kessler's book of Japanese mittens in Japanese. I bought that in Japan. It's also available in German. Don't think it's available in English, but I don't know. And the fun thing about those mittens, I've knit several of them already, you start with a thumb. So the fiddly thing is done first, and then you're done with it, and then you knit in the round for the hand, and then you have to cast off some stitches and knit some stitches together, and then you end with the ribbing. So that's quite an interesting construction. And I decided to knit this pattern. It's called Flower, and this is the colorful variation of that pattern, which sort of looks a bit like this yarn, but this is the same pattern, and if you use solid colors, the pattern in the cuff is a lot more visible. So there is a lace pattern in the ribbing, and also there's an I-cord running up the sides, and you cast off the stitches for your fingers with an I-cord, so that's going to be different. I have not done that for his gloves yet, I think, so I'm really looking forward to knitting this pattern. And as it's a fairly small project, I shouldn't take too long knitting the mittens. So I'm still knitting the last pattern battle where I'm knitting the Best Friends vest, but this is a 2-ball pattern, and I can only knit it because I swapped with somebody to get a second ball in that colorway. I'm still knitting on it, and I still have quite a bit to do. I'm still knitting on the first ball of yarn with that. Yeah, so that's the plan, and I thought I don't have so many projects today, and I just quickly use the time to show you the colors and talk about my new project. So the next project I did work on is the Opal Stole by Deb Milstein that I am test knitting, and I do want to keep knitting on that as much as possible, but because of the sock madness, I was only able to add 2 more stripes, but that's better than nothing, I think. And I think I did 1 stripe before the pattern dropped, and then the other yesterday or the day before. So at least I was adding a bit of length to this stole. I still enjoy it so much. And the last color that I used is a leftover yarn that I think either my sister used or I knit something for her. I'm not quite sure. And this is a 100 Wasser yarn. And the original project was like a square shrug or something that I knit. And I think I knit a pair of baby socks as well out of this colorway. And I still had some left, so I could put a stripe in the stole. And yeah, I intend to put more work into this week. And then the garments I'm knitting, I'm only showing you one today because I can't knit on the advent calendar pullover because I still need the needle from the summer pullover, and I did not knit on the vest because of the sock madness, but I at least put in a bit of work into the Multitalent by Nicolor. And last time I showed you the finished neck band or neck ribbing or whatever. And I finished knitting the number of rounds that I wanted to knit in stockinette on the sleeve, and I've started knitting the same pattern that's in the neckline onto the sleeve. And I am following my sister's idea of knitting the pattern, so to knit the double amount of pattern on the sleeve that I have in the neckline, and then 3 times the neckline onto the front and back. But I will pay attention for the sleeve to not be too long. I have 1 short sleeve pullover where the sleeve is a bit longer than my elbow crease, and then it always sort of creases up and falls over. So I will try to finish the sleeve just on top of my elbow. So I will see. If 6 repeats is too much, maybe I'll just do 5, which will be fine as well. And then also with the front and back, I'll have to see how much yarn I have. So 9 pattern repeats would be the goal. But if I only do 5 here, maybe I'll do 7, or I'll do as many repeats as the yarn allows me to do. So yeah, once the yarn runs out, it runs out. Yeah, so really looking forward to getting more work done on this pullover, because now we're getting the kind of weather where I could wear the pullover. So that's a big motivation. And that already brings me to the knit-alongs that I am doing this year on my channel. So every month I'm doing a new knit-along for socks. And in March we did the Estonian spiral pattern. And this is my second sock, and this is another Opal Abo colorway, subscription colorway. And I really love seeing the stripes change. And with this sock, the interesting thing is that in the leg, I did this spiral pattern, which sort of breaks up the stripes. And now that I'm knitting the stripes like uninterruptedly, I can see the difference in the way the stripes look with the pattern and without. And yeah, so I have probably knit half the foot, maybe a little more. My feet aren't that big. So I hope to finish that soon because this is March and we're going on to May. So it's time those got done. But the April pattern are the Helix stripes socks, and I finally translated the tutorial video into English. So I don't think my husband has put the translation into the video, but that should happen soon, so that if you were waiting for that video to knit your socks, you should be able to start at some point, hopefully soon. Yeah, so I chose those two colors out of the Aquarell series, and I have continued knitting on the foot, and I notice that I'm at different points in the colorway of the two balls of yarn. So instead of having those pink and white colors, I actually have pink and blue stripes, so that the stripes are a lot more pronounced on the foot than in the leg, which I enjoy a lot. And I'm also looking forward to continuing on this sock this week and see. I'm not quite sure who to knit them for yet, so I don't know what size to knit yet, but maybe I can make a decision this week to decide that, and then maybe can finish the first sock. But we'll see. Don't want to promise too much. I, as usual, have so many plans what I want to knit this week. But next week you'll find out what actually worked out and what didn't. Yeah, so that was everything I knit and crocheted last week. It was only the tiny crochet squares on the baby socks, but still I did a little bit of crochet last week, maybe more this week, we'll see. Yeah, but I showed you everything that I did last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!